All right, in this video we're going to do some practice for Introduction to Polynomials. We're in Al Grosch's book, Developmental Math 2. All right, so the first question is asking us what types of polynomials are these? Make sure they are simplified first, monomial, binomial, trinomial, or polynomial with X amount of terms. So let's enlarge a little bit. Remember, to classify polynomials, we decide how many terms it has, and the terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So if you put a vertical line here, you can see these are two terms, and they are not like terms. So that's what the simplify part is about. If they're like terms, you have to combine like terms before you classify. These are not like terms, so this is two terms, so we call this a binomial. In the second question, part B, this is all one term, so this is a monomial. In part C, I'm going to look for like terms. It seems like these two first terms, they're all like terms, aren't they? They all have a squared b. So we need to combine them, simplify, before we can classify. So we have positive 3 and positive 4 make positive 7. Well, positive 7 will cancel with negative 7, so these three terms actually cancel each other, and this is the only term we'll have left. And of course, being one term, it will be a monomial. In this next section, this next example, separate the terms. They are not like terms. There are three terms, so this is a trinomial. In the next question, there are no like terms, so the plus and minus signs separate the terms. This is four terms, so we call this a polynomial. I spelled that wrong. A polynomial with four terms, or a four-term polynomial. On question 2, we have a new polynomial. If you look, it has three terms, so this is a trinomial. We're going to list the terms as the first part. The first term is 3x squared. Remember now, the terms are separated by plus and minus signs. So the first term is 3x squared, the second term is negative 5x, and the third term is 7. The coefficient is the number at the front of each term. So the coefficients are 3, negative 5, and 7. The degree is the sum of the exponents on the variables for each term. So the sum of the exponents in the first term is 2. This is an invisible exponent of 1, so the sum of those exponents is 1. The last term has no variables, so the sum of its exponents is 0. The degree of the polynomial is the largest of the degrees of each term. So we have a 2, a 1, and a 0, so the largest would be 2, so the degree of this polynomial is 2. On question 3, we have a new polynomial. How many terms does it have? It has 5 terms. So we're going to list the terms. Do we have room? The terms are a to the 6th, 9a5, b cubed, negative 2ab, negative 8b cubed, and 3. 5 terms. The coefficients, remember, are the numbers at the front of each term. In this first term, the coefficient is 1, it's the invisible 1. In the second term, 9. In the third term, negative 2. In the fourth term, negative 8. And in the last term, 3. The degree of each term is the sum of the exponents in that term. So the sum of the exponents in the first term is 6. The sum of the exponents in the second term is 8. The sum of the exponents in the third term is 2. And in the fourth term, 3. And in the last term, there are no exponents on variables, so the degree is 0. The degree of the polynomial is just the largest of the degrees of the term. So we look back at these, and the largest one is 8. So the degree of this polynomial is 8. Okay, we're going to evaluate. This is where we just substitute in the value for the variable and use order of operations to simplify. So the first expression is x squared plus 2x plus 1. X is equal to negative 1, so we're going to use the parentheses to help us. So instead of x, parentheses squared plus 2, use the parentheses instead of x, and then go back and put the value of x in each parentheses. And then we just simplify using order of operations. So don't forget grouping symbols first, but there are no operations in these grouping symbols. So we go to exponents next. We have an exponent here, negative 1 times negative 1 makes positive 1. And then we carry down everything we haven't used. And then we multiply and divide left to right. And that would be right here, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And we carry down what we haven't used. And then we're down to the add and subtract. The negative 2 is the only negative number here. These 1's are positive. When we put them together, we get positive 2. 1 plus 1. Negative 2 and positive 2 cancel each other, so this evaluates to make 0. On number 5, we're going to use the parentheses every place we see a variable. And then I'm going to go back and put the value of the variable in each parentheses. X equals negative 2, so the negative 2 inside the parentheses. And then order of operations. All right, there are no operations inside the grouping symbols. The next step is exponents, and we do have an exponent here. Negative 2 times negative 2 makes positive 4. And then carry down everything you haven't used. After exponents, multiply, divide, left to right. So here we have a multiply, and actually we can cancel these negatives as part of our multiply. So negative 3 times 4 makes negative 12. When we cancel these minus signs, we get plus 2, plus 7. So canceling those minus signs is part of the multiply. And then we're just down to the add. So we only have one negative term here, negative 12. These are both positives. When we add them together, we get positive 9. Negative 12 plus 9 makes negative 3. Remember, they're opposite signs, so they fight each other, they cancel each other out. You do a subtract, and the term with the most guys gets the sign. All right, this time we have two variables. So we're still going to use the parentheses. Every place we see a variable, that would be the x and the y from up here, minus, and we have an x cubed. And now we got to be careful that we only put the x here and here. The x is negative 3, so it's going to go here and here. The y is worth negative 2, and the y belongs here. Okay, there are no operations in grouping symbols, but we do have an exponent here. I said this in the lesson, but I'm going to say it again. Be careful that you do not cancel these negative signs before you do exponents. Canceling the negative signs is a multiplication operation. You must do exponents first because it makes a difference when you have an exponent on a negative base. So don't cancel these before you do exponents. We're going to do this exponent first. Negative 3 cubed. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 will make negative 27. 3 times 3 times 3. And then we carry down everything we haven't used. Just like that. And that takes care of our exponent. Now we do multiply, divide, left to right. The multiply is all here, but then we can cancel these negative signs. Okay, negative 2 times negative 3 times negative 2. If you have three negatives being multiplied together, that's going to make a negative. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So this makes negative 12. These negative signs right here can cancel to make a positive 27. So that's the multiply and divide, and then we do the add and subtract. Negative 12 plus 27, they're different signs, so we subtract them to get 15, and there was more positive. The positive number was bigger, so this is a positive 15. Okay, we're going to do it again. We have x and y again here. So using the parentheses, that would be x cubed minus y squared minus 4x plus y. Okay, let's use x is 2, positive 2. So x here and here. Y is negative 1, so y here and here. And we're going to follow order of operations first. There are no operations in grouping symbols, but we do have exponents. Well, 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2 makes 8. Negative 1 squared, negative 1 times negative 1 makes positive 1. Be careful that you did not cancel this. You cannot cancel it before you do the exponents. Then you can carry down everything that you haven't used. That takes care of exponents. Multiply, divide, left to right. We only have the one multiply here. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then you can carry down everything that you haven't used. And we're up to add. Okay, so for add, I'm going to identify this is a negative term, this is a negative term, and this is a negative term. When I add all those together, I get negative 10. And then we have this positive 8. So negative 10 plus 8, they're different signs. So we subtract, we take the sign of the bigger one, we get negative 2. Okay, we have one practice graph down here of a nonlinear equation. If you watch the lesson, you should already know what shape this will turn out to be because of the square here. So we're going to choose some values for x. Let's choose 0, 1, negative 1, 2, negative 2. I hope those turn out to be okay. So we need a little space to do some evaluate here because this looks kind of complicated. So if x equals 0, we're going to put 0 in here for x. So we'll have y equals 0 squared plus 0 minus 6. Well, zeros are 0, so it looks like y equals negative 6 here. Then we're going to substitute in positive 1 where we have the x's. So y equals 1 squared plus 1 minus 6. So that's 1 plus 1 minus 6. That's 2 minus 6 makes negative 4. Okay, going to do it again with negative 1. Y equals negative 1 squared plus negative 1 minus 6. Negative 1 squared is 1. Plus negative 1 is actually minus 1 minus 6. So 1 minus 1 cancels. So this is turning out to be negative 6. All right, let's do this with positive 2. Y equals 2 squared plus 2 minus 6. So 4 plus 2 minus 6 is 6 minus 6, which is 0. And we're going to do it again with negative 2. So y equals negative 2 squared plus negative 2 minus 6. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2 makes positive 4. Plus negative 2 is minus 2 minus 6. Okay, so these are both minuses, so this makes negative 8 here. So 4 minus 8 is negative 4. All right, let's go over here to our graph. All right, the first point we're going to put on our graph is 0, negative 6, so that will be down here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. All right, the next point is 1, negative 4. So 1, negative 4 will be there. The next point is negative 1, negative 6. So negative 1, negative 6. Did I make a mistake? All right, negative 1, negative 6 will be here. 2, 0 will be here. And last point is negative 2, negative 4. So negative 2, negative 4. Right there. Okay. It's just this time the parabola is not centered on the y-axis. So if we join these like that, the parabola will come out to be something like that.